Okay. All right. So my name is Nikki Ottolini. I am a gold rank, and I am under Brittany Davidson. She's my direct diamond upline, and several of you are, I know already, but are on my team. So I'm happy to have you all on today's call. Today I'm going to be talking about some takeaways that I learned from leadership, and then I kind of dug deeper and looked a little further into my topics. So what I really want to talk about today is strengths, and like focusing on your strengths and then being yourself. So that's kind of where I'm headed towards in this call. And I have a PowerPoint that I'll be sharing with you, but basically why I thought this was such an important topic is because when you're using your own strengths, what you're already good at, what you're best at, you're not only instilling positivity in yourself, but you're also effectively becoming a better leader and managing your team better and becoming more successful. It's all over. I mean, that's how a lot of corporate worlds, they don't really function that way, but how we had what is it called? Gallup came and spoke to us at leadership. And so they're a company who actually works with corporations and companies to help people focus on their strengths to create better, more efficient teams. And so if you're working on your strengths and you're focusing on your strengths in your daily life and on your doTERRA team, you're going to be more positive and more successful. And your teammates are more likely to look to you and follow you as a leader and respect you, and also stay on your team or stay more engaged on your team and also be more successful. And you're able to, it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever heard the 5 love languages, but that's kind of what it reminded me of. If you know how your team works and you know yourself as well, you are able to work with your team and collaborate with your team more effectively. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so can y'all see this? I'm hoping everybody can see this. Can you nod your head if you can see this? The PowerPoint?
I see it.
Perfect.
You're good.
Okay, good. So executing and influencing and relationship building and strategic thinking, those are 4 of the main strengths that Gallup discussed with us at leadership. And I have the link here where you can go to, but I recommend that everybody take the strengths test. And this is something I'm also going to be asking each one of my builders to do, because like I said, I think if we all are aware of each other's strengths, we can all collaborate with each other better and help each other with our weaknesses as well. And one of the things that I thought was powerful I actually have the book as well. You can't. Yeah, you can see the book, but I can show the book later. But it is what Gallup referenced. You can purchase the book and get a free link to the test where you can take the test to get your strengths, or you can just go to the website and purchase the test by itself. And it also has a lot of resources there as well. So either way, or using both together, is really effective. But there is no more effective way to empower people than to see each person in terms of his or her strengths. Like I was saying, it's more powerful to see people for what they're best at rather than picking, having someone do everything and assuming that they're just like you and getting upset with someone if they're not for example, well, I'll get into it later, but you just want to know everybody's strengths because it really empowers your entire team. So in the book, it talks about, this is all from the book, but it talks about what their research what the results were. And they found that The most effective leaders are always investing in their strengths, not their weaknesses. Not to say that they didn't have weaknesses, but it's not something that they focus on. So they're not trying to focus on their weaknesses to improve. They're looking and really empowering their own strengths to become more effective leaders. The most effective leaders surround themselves with the right people and then maximize their team. While the best leaders are not well-rounded, the best teams are. And I thought that was really powerful because I've always been someone, who's trying to be good at everything. And instead of really focusing on what I'm already good at, where my strengths are, and then becoming great at those things. So this has just really touched me because this is something that I am not haven't worked on in the past. So I really am excited to do so now. And the most effective leaders also understand their followers, which is your followers are, could be, a huge thing where like on social media, why people really lead or follow you as a leader. But really what we're talking about in doTERRA is your teammates, like why your teammates want to follow you as a leader and respect you as a leader. This is something I just took away from the book, and this is where I'm trying to find myself, is if you're constantly trying to mimic other leaders, and they're all great, effective leaders, but they're all very different, you're never focusing on your own strengths. And so you're never going to be able to become the best and most effective, strong leader that you can be. I find myself saying, okay, I see and even in branding yourself, and this is kind of where I partnered my thoughts that way as well, is when you're branding yourself, I've always tried to okay, so I'm going to be just like Brittany, who's my upline. Okay, I'm going to do exactly what she's doing. Or I look at the Oil Geek and I'm like, okay, I got to do exactly what she's doing. Or I keep trying to mimic these other leaders or these other brands when what I really need to do is learn where my strengths are and figure out who I am as a leader and how I want to brand myself and be myself as I'm, creating and really developing my doTERRA business and my name in the doTERRA business. So that's just something I really want to put out there towards y'all, is don't try to copy someone else, because you're not going to be effective in that way, because that's how they are effective. They've used their strengths to become a effective leader or a great leader. So use your own strengths so that you can also be that great leader. So that's something I thought was great. So one thing that I also pulled from this book, Clifton, actually right before he passed away, who is the creator of the Strengths Finder or founder of it, after interviewing many different leaders or at least effective leaders and comparing all the results, he could not come up with one or a list of characteristics that all the leaders had. But what he did say is a leader needs to know his strengths as a carpenter knows his tools, or a physician knows his instruments at their disposal. What great leaders have in common is that they truly know his or her strength, and that they can pinpoint that strength that they need to use in the right time. So I thought that was great. Really and I think it all comes back to knowing yourself, really knowing what who you are, and just continually to being great about who you are instead of trying to be someone else or to focus on those weaknesses. And in this, I kind of found this information, but then also kind of, I guess, translated it or interpreted it in what it might mean in doTERRA in our business. But if you're if you're able to help people you lead focus on their strengths, it will dramatically boost engagement levels through your team. So this would mean that if your team are focusing on their own strengths, and it's going to be, like I said, it's going to create positivity, and you're going to be instilling, it's kind of like limiting beliefs where you're taking away the fear and you're reversing them. So if you're focusing on what you're good at and you're turning those poor thoughts, like if you're always looking to your weaknesses and always looking at your flaws, then it's not going to create very much positivity in your life or your business. But if you're focusing on your strength, then you're doing better. whatever task you're doing. It's creating a more positive and uplifting environment that you're in every day, and it's also causing those positive results coming your way as well. So in doTERRA, that means that your team and yourself are going to be engaging with potential and current customers more, and then they're building their own business because you're all using your own strengths, and it's creating that positive workflow. And if you're focusing on people's weaknesses, they're going to lose confidence. And that's something that I think that I'm a big person who picks on flaws. So I hope that in my teammates, I don't pinpoint too many flaws, but something that I will work on is not only helping others with maybe some of their flaws, but be sure to influence them with confidence as well, or encouragement as well. So if it's difficult for us to build self-confidence in ourselves if we're only focusing on our weaknesses and never looking at our strengths, or really building on our strengths. So these in the Strength Finders, they come up with 4 domains of leadership strength. And so this is by looking to these 4, these are 4 main categories, but there are 34 different strength themes within these categories. And this is a great way to maximize your team by having them take this test and figuring out where they fit into this. So you might fit into all one category or mostly one category. Like I fit into mostly strategic thinking. So, and then I only have like one in executing. So what's great about using these strengths is to partner with people who have different strengths in these categories, to either, brainstorm on different ideas where they may and I have examples later, but, for example, maybe working with an achiever or an activator or someone who has the woo strength, because they're go-getters and they make things happen quickly, and they're very influential and things like that. So that's someone that I might want to partner with because I'm more of a thinker, and I'm learning and I'm analyzing things. But sometimes that keeps me from becoming a go-getter. So I think that because in our team, it's not like we can hand off a task to someone, but we can use each other's strengths to learn from each other. Awesome. And to get ideas from each other and see what works for other people. And then, so I kind of defined the 4 domain leadership strengths. So if you're in executing, it's someone who knows how to make things happen, implement solutions, and they have the ability to catch an idea and make it reality. An influencer is someone who helps their team reach a much broader audience. So they're always telling everyone about their team's ideas, and they're sharing, they're not afraid to speak up and take charge. Relationship building is the essential glue that holds a team together. And so they're able to create groups and organizations that are much better or much greater than the sum of each individual part of that team. So they hold the whole team together. And then the strategic thinking those are people who keep us focused on the could be. So they're constantly absorbing and analyzing information and helping the team make better decisions, and continually stretching our thinking for the future. So what's important about these strengths? Not only does it create positivity in yourself if you're able to really focus on your strengths, because you're doing what you're good at. You're really focusing on what you're good at. And so it makes you feel successful, and it makes you feel like you're, getting things done and making a change or making a difference for the better. In my previous job, which I didn't mention in the beginning, I guess kind of introduced why I'm even here, but I am an attorney, and I worked for a large healthcare corporation where we were basically put in positions where they didn't focus on our strengths basically. So I think back about that, and if they would just have let me focus on where I was, the researcher, the analyzer, and things like that, I would have been much more successful in that position. Doesn't matter now because I am happy and I have left that job to actually do doTERRA full time and stay home with my 7-month-old son. But anyways, the reason why focusing on our strengths is also important is because, and how our team is going to be more successful and work with us better, is because we want our team to look at us as leaders, and think of us as trustworthy, compassionate, and stable, and one who creates hope. So those are actually 4 characteristics that Gallup did when they were researching what people thought about their effective leaders. These are what they created broad terms in this, but these are the terms that they came up with where the people thought, when they had effective leaders, what they thought of them and why they followed them, why they trusted that company or that leader, why they stayed with them, and why they worked hard for them. So you want to be a better leader and focus on your strengths, because you want your followers, your teammates, and the people who look up to you as leaders, and even your customers, you want them to see you as these 4 characteristics. And I've kind of defined what trust might look like, and some of the quotes that the leaders in the book talked about are said that, basically, if you don't have a relationship, you start from 0 each time that you are working with a teammate. And that made me think of like having weekly calls. If you're not having your weekly calls, you're not getting to know your team. You're not getting to know the builders on your team very well. And you want to get to know them so that they trust you as a leader, and you're not having to start from ground 0 each time you do have a conversation with them, because you don't want it to be once in a blue moon that you're trying to tackle a solution or ask for assistance or see where they're at in their business. You want to really build and have a working relationship with all of your builders and really create that trust within your whole team. And so trust is actually closely linked to engagement in a team, and it helps increase speed and efficiency in the workplace. So if you trust, and this also goes to doTERRA. So if you trust your leader, if you trust doTERRA, then you're going to want to work harder and more effectively for that person. The most cherished and valuable commodity in a workplace is trust. And some of the things that one of the leaders, he was actually he's the president of Best Buy, but he said that being authentic and just letting people see his flaws was something that he felt showed that he could be trusted, because he's not covering up things that making himself out to be, basically perfect. And another leader said, his behavior created the illusion that he was trustworthy, and being authentic and dependable as well. So respect, integrity, and honesty are all outcomes of having strong relationships with your team, and when they're built on trust. So you want your team to trust you, but in turn also respect and have integrity to you, or integrity, and believe that you have integrity and that you're honest, because that's just going to create a stronger team, and it's going to make everybody more effective and efficient in their work. Compassion is another reason why the most effective leaders had such great followers and people who felt they were great leaders. Compassion is something that when you're showing positive energy, for people to truly love their team, it needs to have a heart. So one of the things that Gallup was researching, they said with a team that had caring managers, and this was on a more not larger scale, but on just interviews that they had, they said people are more significantly more likely to stay with their team or their organization, have much more engaged customers, they're substantially more productive, and they produce more profit for their company. So basically, this is kind of what I've been saying is if you're a caring and compassionate leader, and your team feels that way, you're showing it in the right way, then your team is going to be more successful in all these ways, and they're going to be more engaged with their customers and have and be more productive with their team and as well. So just all this kind of ties in together. And then stability is, having confidence in where, your team is going and how you're going to get there, and really knowing what your leaders' core values are and knowing that they're stable and that there's a solid foundation there. Stability in the moment and hope for the future. That was something that was a trend among the people that Gallup interviewed. So hope gives followers something to look forward to, and it helps them see a way through chaos and complexity. And this kind of goes to, some of your leaders are your builders' whys as well. But you want to be able to instill hope and create hope for your builders in time of, the down times and the times that we're struggling, or when they're not doing as well and they're faced an obstacle. You want to be able to continually create that hope. When people don't have hope, they lose confidence and they disengage, and they often feel like, they're helpless. So the very act of initiating this hope, and instead of just responding to the problem as needed, creates hope for the future. And if you're not doing this, if you're not helping your leaders have hope, and creating that hope for them to help and helping them see a way through the chaos, then chances are no one is. So you want to be that cheerleader and that hope for them as well. And something I read, using strengths to overcome weaknesses, something I read in online, this is actually, I haven't read this book, but strengths-based selling. So same idea, same, they use the Strength Finder information and go on that, but this is based on just selling. But I thought that this point here was pretty neat, because I thought about, so what about our weaknesses? How are we able to either use our strengths to overcome our weaknesses, or to navigate our weaknesses, or basically what do we do when we have weaknesses that are affecting our work? And here they said basically it's not a weakness for the most part, and unless it's affecting you or your team or your success, basically. Sometimes you can navigate around them. So sometimes it's not something it's not detrimental to your business or your success in your business. You either learn to use your strengths to navigate around the weaknesses and still accomplish what you need to get done, or perhaps you partner with someone. So I thought this example was really good. So if you do not like talking to strangers, and you have, reached your capacity in your warm market, so you're, having to find other people outside of your family and friends, then maybe because we're not in a situation where we could, say, okay, so-and-so on my team is great at, meeting new people and talking to strangers, so I'm going to hand that task off to that person and not do it myself. So in our business, we all kind of have to do those things. So instead, you use your strength to navigate this fear or this weakness in your business, which you don't like doing. So if you're an achiever, you might want to create a tracking mechanism that makes you and raise it, high stakes, so that your task is to contact as many people as you can, and you're tracking that so that you're making those contacts and you're feeling more productive regardless of the actual outcome. And we know that in this business, a lot of it is a numbers game. So you're not focusing, even if you make contact and not all the contacts with these people are successful, you're still feeling enthused or uplifted because you're making progress on this tracking sheet that you made. So you had a goal to, talk to 50 people today, or whatever the goal might be, 50 people in a week, then you're hitting that, you're going down that list or whatever. You're tackling this goal that you've made, because as an achiever, that's what you see, the actual task of really hitting those goals. That tracking mechanism goal is helping you stay positive and influencing you, and allowing you to use your strength in an area that you might not otherwise do. So if you weren't making this tracking mechanism, and you're just saying, I have this thing I have to do, I have to go talk to these strangers, if you're not using your strength to make this weakness not such a weakness, then it's keeping you from doing the task at all. So I looked at my strengths, and I'm not going into detail with all my strengths. I just, pulled out a couple.
Wow.
But I'm basically a strategic thinking person. Yeah. So, and I have one, restorative executing. So I'm a learner, a futuristic, strength, restorative, analytical, and intellection. And I defined those earlier. Or did I define them? No, I didn't, but I will define them here. So, but here's why I want to use my strengths, or what makes it beneficial for me to use my strengths. So I want to use my strengths in a way so that my team will describe me as a leader with trust and compassion, as well as a leader who provides stability and creates hope. And we went over why that's so important, because basically a leader who instills trust or compassion and provides stability and creates hope for their followers is going to have a more powerful and effective and significant and just more successful team. And you're all going to be able to work better together if you're all if you feel that your team or your leader is someone you can go to, is someone you can depend on, is someone who cares about you and really is and has instilled and values and is going to keep going through those hard times. So you want that leader, and you want to be that leader as well for your whole team. It just creates a more successful and stable team. I want to use my strengths in a way to collaborate with my team more effectively and help everyone succeed in their business. And I also want to use my strengths in a way to complement my business and overcome my weaknesses. So because I'm a learner, the book, Strengths-Based Leadership that Gallup put out, kind of has examples of this. So if I'm a learner, the way that I might be able to show that I am a trusting, compassionate, stable, and hopeful leader is in these ways. So, for example, to show my team that I'm a trustworthy person in the learner strength, which is my top strength. I'm going to be honest enough to admit that I am still learning whenever someone asks me a question that I'm not sure of, or whatever it may be. So I'm going to be vulnerable, and I'm going to also respect knowledge that is superior to my own. So even if a teammate of mine, for example, let's say I've been doing the business or been using essential oils for 3 years. Let's say someone that's on my team has been using oils for 10 years or whatever it might be, or they have more knowledge in a particular area than I do. I'm going to appreciate their superior knowledge, and I'm going to be respectful of that knowledge, and I'm going to admit that I'm still learning, and we're going to collaborate in that way. So I'm not the perfect person, basically, and I'm going to be honest about that. So that will instill trust in my team, because I'm not trying to be something I'm not. So to show compassion, I'm going to co-learn to create mutual vulnerability and discovery with my team. And I'm going to also appreciate and celebrate others' learning. To provide stability, I'm going to invest in another person's growth, showing that they matter. Show patience with others as they learn, because it shows that they're not disposable, and that I believe in their value and will stand beside them as they develop. So just because I learning may be something that I'm passionate about, and it may come easy to me or some or others, I'm going to be patient with my teammates as they're trying to learn in different areas. Or just being able to learn, because some people, it's not something that they don't want to just continue to learn. So I'm just going to basically show that my core values are stable by showing that they're a value on my team, and that I'm going to be there the whole way. And then creating hope. I'm going to recognize my enthusiasm for learning may be shared by others on my team. So I might want to create an ongoing team-wide learning program to ignite that passion within my whole team, this was an example out of the book. I love this idea. So I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do this. So this may be something that I try to create somehow. I'm not sure exactly how, but anyways, we have so much education that doTERRA puts out there for us that it may not be needed. But anyways, so something that I might do to help overcome my weakness would be to partner with someone who is an activator, who has an activator strength to help promote ideas and motivate me to get things done. So being a learner, sometimes that causes us to continue to learn. And, I have all the analytical stuff, and I'm intellectual. So I really like to think and analyze things and discuss them, but I'm not always, a let's get it done type person. So working with someone who has an activator strength would help me, I think. And this is me saying this. Was not necessarily in the book, but I just using this as an example. I'm sure there's other strengths that would complement a learner strength, but this might help me basically motivate me and give me ideas to get things done and take action in a more effective way. So I had two other or three other strategic thinking strengths, but here is my effective strength, restorative. So a way that I would create trust and show compassion and provide stability, create hope, are all these ways. So I might, as a restorative strength person, to help my team think of me as a trustworthy person, because I'm one to close the loop, reinstate order, and clean up messes. So I'm looking to find where the problem is and solve those issues. Letting people know that I'm willing to do this whenever need occurs, it might create trust within the team. Also showing compassion. My desire to make things right is a sign that I care. So solving problems before others are even aware they exist, and then letting people know that I did them, or even because this is a good example of me. I love to be a first responder. So if someone says they need something, or something's broken, within whatever, like their life, I'm always, what can I do to help kind of person? How can I fix that? So reaching out to people in need as quickly as I can to offer my support and love. So and this demonstrates that I have concern and I'm committed to that person. Providing stability would be thinking of ways to problem-proof systems and efforts. Knowing that I have done the contingency analysis and take precautions to prevent mistakes helps others feel more secure. So they'll feel more stable within the team and know that I've done the work to make sure that all the kinks and issues have been worked out. And these are just examples of things. There's plenty others, but also creating hope as a restorative strength. Be the investigator and inspiration for ever higher level of achievement and service. So make certain others don't think that all you can see are flaws and shortcomings. So appreciate people for current levels of service and performance. So this is something that I'm always looking at myself. I'm always looking at issues, and this is what I did in my previous job. All I did was fix problems. So my brain is wired to look at problems and issues and pinpoint those issues. I mean, in law school, that's what we learned. We find the issue, we find the problem, and what do we do to fix it? So that's just something that has been ingrained in me. And so sometimes only seeing flaws is something that I I do. So appreciating people for where they are now and improving, and not always telling them basically you need to improve here, here, here. I need to also work on appreciating people for where their performance that they are accomplishing and that they are doing, and the service that they're also providing to the team. So someone I might want to partner with is someone with a positivity strength to better learn to overcome those potential weaknesses, of looking to improve those flaws, and better instill positivity in my teammates and myself. I guess if you're always looking at flaws, they can also make you kind of pull you down. So kind of the last thing, and all this really ties into, as you're looking at your strengths and as you're, looking as your leaders' examples, just remember to be yourself. Don't try to be the leader that you look up to. There's plenty out there, but like Michael Hyatt, Mary Hyatt, Kristen, Brittany, our doTERRA leaders, or, someone on a bigger scale, but don't try to be them. Just remember to be yourself, because like I said in the beginning, if you're always trying to basically mimic these other leaders, they're using their strengths to be successful. So it's not going to be as successful for you to try to be just like them, because you have different strengths than they do. And one thing that Gallup did say is there's like, no one can have the same order of strengths. So someone may have the same, let's say they have the same strengths as mine, but they're not going to be in the same order. So we're all very, very unique in that way. So just, really learn your own strengths so that you can be successful yourself and create a positive environment and keep you going. Because I know a lot of times in this business, what I feel that what holds people back sometimes is when they hit that, that obstacle or that struggle, and it creates a feeling of being being defeated, basically. So if there's ways that you can, any way that you can continue to instill positivity in your life, I think is a great idea. So just be sure to, focus on your own strengths and be the leader you were created to be. We are all unique. God made us all unique, and we're all different. So he gave us all different strengths that he believes we should use in our lives and our business. So use those strengths and your own personality to lead your team and create a loyal team and customer base. And just be the best version of yourself in everything that you do. So I think the more that we know about ourselves, and that goes to learning our strengths as well, I think it'll also help us learn our weaknesses as well, as we're figuring out where we really are successful, or where we have the most strengths in different areas. I think that just knowing your own self better helps us, accomplish more things and overcome the weaknesses that we may face. I don't know if that was okay. I went over that time. So if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself, or let's see, I have some chats here. How do I get out of this? I don't know how to get back to where my face is showing.
Nikki, there should be a button that says stop screen sharing up at the top or at the bottom.
Let's see.
Actually, I can't read that.
It says new share. Maybe that's it. Oh, I see. Never mind. I thought it would stop recording. Okay. Okay. Y'all see my face now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. See. I don't want to scroll through everything, but if you have a question, just unmute yourself. And I think there's a lot more. I mean, I could have kept going and researching more, and I probably would have if I had more days to look into this before today's call. But um, it's just really interesting, and I wanted to find more examples of how you can, specifically doTERRA, like where you can overcome weaknesses and things like that. But I just think it's really great to really get to know your team and your own strengths yourself, because I think it really helps us all just communicate better with one another if we can understand each other. Just kind of like the love languages, if you can understand people better on your team, I think it can only be beneficial. My favorite part of leadership besides this test. Okay. Let's see. Well, this is probably not, it's not really something I learned at leadership specifically, but I brought my 7-month-old with me, and I was terrified to do so. But it made me feel like a super mom. So the fact that I was able to go fly to Orlando by myself with my Everett and have a great time at leadership empowered me. Oh, and this is also not something that was specifically taught at leadership, but I did a breathwork session with Juliana. So if you've never heard of that, I didn't know what it was. I kept, she kept asking me to come or inviting me to come, and Brittany kept telling me about it, but I was like, I don't need help breathing. I don't know what this is, but anyways, it's really, really powerful. And it's hard to explain, but that was probably, we did it Tuesday, and it just made my whole outlook on the entire event much different. And I'm a very get in a crowd, and I kind of start getting reserved and, fall back and start thinking negative thoughts like I'm not good enough. I shouldn't be here. And the only thing I can think that was different was, doing the breath work with Juliana, like it just kind of relieved some of my fears that, maybe, like I am good enough. I'm here, and it just was really great to hear all the speakers and really be able to take that all in without being a nervous wreck about, why am I here, and just thinking all negative thoughts. So I'm sorry, can't think of anything else. I have to go back and look at my notes, but I have tons of different notes on great information that we learned. But some of the things that I kind of going along with the be yourself is a lot of the speakers talked about different where they, some people were social media, gurus, and some people, like one guy didn't even have a Facebook. So it was really neat to see how everybody, these diamonds and above were still all successful, but they were doing their own thing. They did what worked for them. And that's kind of why I say do what works for you. So if you're not a Facebook, guru, and you don't need to be, like if you're successful without it, then don't try to get into something that you're not great at. I mean, I think everybody for the most part should, get your, name out there on social media, because that's just kind of how the world is today. And he also partnered with his wife, so they were a team. So his wife did social media and he did not. So if you have that, teamwork, you can. But anyways, I think that in all this is just, if you have something that works, keep doing it. There's not a one, size fits all in this business. And I think that just having, really, I think a lot of the diamonds were really passionate about their whole team and their leaders, how they were there because of their leaders. And that, we were all here in this business because of each other. And so the better we can work as a team, I think the more successful and the happier we will be. That's kind of my biggest takeaways as well. Let's see. Superwoman. Yep, breath work. Oh, I love the, yeah, under the deep blue. Truman, top line, if people can't. Yep. Teamwork makes the dream work. Exactly. So that's my thoughts on leadership. There are so many things that came out of the leadership. So this is just very minimal information compared to what I'm sure a lot of you also got out of leadership. But those were my biggest takeaways. So if no one has any questions, I guess we will wrap this up and talk to y'all later. Bye.